Hi everyone, welcome to the second video on academic writing. What I want to do today is just quickly talk about references. So hopefully for the previous task you now have a little collection of books and articles and videos and things that are based around what you are going to be talking about. And what you want to do is be able to make sure you're using those properly. Now, I know we've talked about referencing your work because of plagiarism issues, but it's very good practice to make sure you do it as you go along. And of course, anything you read will in some way have affected your sort of take on the subject you're talking about. So it's good practice to get these done and going as you go along. So one of the things you hear about often with essays and actually research around the subject is I just wrote it, I thought of it and didn't need any research, or I already knew everything, so I just wrote down what I knew. Those are not good ways of going about making writing a research academic piece of work. You've got to be able to read around the subject, find things that are interesting and aid your own knowledge of the subject. You can't just sort of do a stream of consciousness and just get it out there. That's not writing an academic essay. That's more like just writing a off the top of your head speech or something. That's not what we're doing. We're actually doing things properly. We're researching and we're writing a good summary of the entire topic. So you have to research and you have to reference everything you use. Academic writing is very, very important in that kind of situation. So Harvard referencing, as has just popped up at the top there, is what we'll be using. Harvard referencing is the international template that everyone uses for academic referencing. So you might have a book or an online video or a journal article. There's loads of different things. They all have a Harvard referencing setup. So we're going to talk about those quickly today. So books are, there's probably the easiest one. You have last name, first initial, year published, title in italics. Watch out for that. There's one italics part in each template. Edition, if it's not the first edition. City published, colon, publisher, then comma, pages you've used. So example we've got here is Roald Dahl, Charlie the Chocolate Factory. So Dahl, R, full stop. Open brackets 2004, which was where it was published this particular book. Remember, it's not where it's written, it's where it's actually published, that particular book, so you can find that version of it if people need to check your references. Then you have your title. Oh, look at that, that title's not in italics. So there's our first lesson for today. Always make sure your title's in italics. If not, it's not in the correct format and template and can be confused for anything from the publisher to the journal it's appeared in or anything. 6th edition, New York, colon, Knopf. So we can see where we've got the city it's published in and the publisher. No pages have been outlined, so obviously there's not a specific part of the book they're talking about. They're talking about the book in general has been read, which has affected their sort of knowledge of the surrounding of the surrounding subject. So often when you find a book that you want to reference, you'll get something like this. This is a history of video games. I've just grabbed it off Amazon as an example. And the first thing you might notice is that it's got two authors, if you look on that sort of little bit at the bottom left. And you need to be able to sort of find the information and do it properly, even though there's more than one author. So if you open up almost any book, in the first couple of pages you always have the sort of publishing information and everything, and the copyright and rights reserved part of the book. So we can use that to make sure we've got all the information we need. Even if you find a book online or through Google Books, this page will be available. So we can see here, if we go just to here, we can see the text is 2018. Which we can assume is publication date because that's where it's there. We can see London was the city it got published in. We can see that it's Carlton Books. Oh, it says first published 2018. It's right there by Carlton Books Limited. So there you go. There's our publisher, and that's everything we need. So we can now put that together. Newman J, Simons I, because we've got multiple authors. So we have last name first initial and last name first initial. 2018 when it was published. Title in italics, as we remember, London, colon, Carlton Books Limited, and then pages, whichever pages we'd used from that book. So multiple authors need to be noted as well, and you can find everything you need generally on that inside page. A few others, just an example. So journals, if you've been trawling through the online journals, especially gamestudies.org, Very similar setup. The only difference is you have article title. So in this case, the example is on truth, content, and false consciousness, blah, blah, blah. Then we have the journal, which is in italics. So Philosophy Today is the journal or the magazine that it's within. Volume and issue, because of course journals and magazines, that type of thing, do have a volume and an issue number, and the pages used. Remember, PP, pages. Couple more examples. Websites, so this is quite likely to be used. You can see that you've got an option for if it's something on the website that's been written by someone, and you've got an option for when there's no author at all, so you just got website name that replaces them instead. Online video, which is getting more and more prevalent in learning things online. YouTube is becoming a massive source of information. So in this case, you have a username, then year posted, your title in italics, don't forget, square brackets online video available at the URL, and square brackets accessed day, month, year. Okay, so I've just done what this video will be. So Chris Carroll Frisbee, notice is a username, so it's a sort of straight out text. We're not talking about authors for once. Year posted, sorry. The italics for your title of the video, online video, just make sure you're specifying what type it is, available at whatever the link is, so I've just made up a link and mashed some buttons there, and accessed on the correct date. Okay, so they are the 4 references you need to use for the references I recommended you find. So your next task is to create the Harvard reference for those things you have found. What you want to do is just make sure that each of them is correctly formatted, italics and everything. It seems like a little bit of an effort, but it's very, very worth doing, and you've got to do it anyway if you're going to be doing any academic research, which you will be if you go to university, certainly. So make sure you get used to it now. Harvard referencing, if you do it as you go along, is actually all right. It's only when you leave it all to the end of an assignment you realise how daunting it can be. There are, once you get used to it, pieces of software that can sort of keep tabs on it as you go, which is helpful as well. But for now, just try and get used to using it and the information that you need. You should also, now you've found some books and articles around a subject or a theme that you'd like to talk about, start thinking about what your essay is actually going to be about. So you might have had a general idea before, so maybe it's going to be about evolution of platformers, maybe it's going to be about controllers. There's loads of things those are very simple ideas. There are loads of things you could be talking about. Remember, it's only meant to be short, this one, so try and keep it focused. Okay, so that means specific things to talk about, not sort of generic things like RPGs. That's too open. You want to think about the use of controllers in 3rd generation Nintendo consoles. Oh, that's a bit more specific. You might actually be able to say something in a short amount of time. Okay, so Harvard referencing, using those templates and get used to it, and also start thinking about what specifically you're going to write about. Next time, we'll actually start talking about how you want to write your essay, so please do have an idea about what you're going to do by the time you watch the next video. Okay, until next time, see you later.